So if you're a new player, you're probably wondering, what is Chromie Time? Chromie Time is a relatively new feature that came out in 2020 with the Shadowlands expansion. It allows you to choose any expansion you would like to level a character in, because as many of you know, World of Warcraft has had a ton of expansions over the years, and with each expansion usually comes a new zone/continent to level in. Activating Chromie Time lets you choose a specific timeline/expansion, and it changes you to a different phase from players outside of that phase, and causes all quests and objectives to scale from level 10 to 60. It was previously 10 to 50, but with the release of Dragonflight and the new level cap being level 70, it was raised. In addition to Dragonflight being released, they've now also added Shadowlands as an option to pick for Chromie Time, but new players won't have access to this right away. In fact, Chromie Time overall isn't available right away to new players, so let's talk about that next. So if you're a brand new player on a new account, you can't activate Chromie Time until after having a character reach level 60, was previously level 50. You can still technically level in the old world zones such as Wrath of the Lich King or Pandaria, but they will only scale up to their maximum normal level. If we take a look at the map now, you can see all these zones have certain levels on them, but without Chromie Time, you can see you'll stop gaining experience at a certain point. Currently, the experience for a brand new player will go as follows. On your first character, you will have to level from 1 to 10 in Exile's Reach, which we covered in my 4th episode. And then from level 10 to 60, you will have to level in the Battle for Azeroth expansion, which is the expansion before Shadowlands that came out in 2018. If you make a Horde character, this means you will be questing through the zone Zandalar, which includes Zuldazar, Vol'dun, and Nazmir. If you make an Alliance character, you will be questing through the zone Kultiris, which includes Tiragard Sound, Drustvar, and Stormsong Valley. Blizzard wants new players to level up in the Battle for Azeroth expansion for the first time because it's technically the most recent expansion that still gives a good look into some of the lore and the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance. I personally think it sucks as a new player that you're essentially being forced to do this, but it's not all that bad. You just have to get your first character to level 60, and then you're free to access Chromie Time and quest wherever you would like, and no more restrictions on all future characters. So I really encourage you to stick with it. I personally don't enjoy Battle for Azeroth that much, so I understand the pain, but maybe you'll like it. And if you don't, just know this isn't even close to all of World of Warcraft, and most of us longtime diehard players love the game for everything prior to Battle for Azeroth. So just give it a chance, because I think once you get to see the rest of Azeroth and beyond on your other characters that you create, I think you'll fall in love too. Okay, and while it will take a while to get to level 60, let's assume that you've finished leveling your first character to 60. Now what do you do? Well, there's two things depending on what you'd like to do first. You can keep leveling your character to level 70 if you have the Dragonflight expansion, and this means you'll be done with Battle for Azeroth and instead heading off to the Dragon Isles to get from level 60 to 70. Or the other thing you can do if you're just excited to play as a new character and try out Chromie Time and questing somewhere else other than Battle for Azeroth, as soon as you hit level 60, you can log out and make a new character and activate Chromie Time to quest wherever you'd like. So in the next section, we'll be talking about how to activate Chromie Time. To activate Chromie Time, once you have it unlocked, all you have to do is speak to Chromie, who is located in Stormwind for the Alliance and Orgrimmar for the Horde. Both locations are near each city's embassies, which I've marked on the map here. Chromie will give you the option to pick an expansion/timeline, and once you select one, you'll be given the start quest for that expansion. One important thing to note is that regardless of which Chromie Time you pick, once it's enabled, you are actually able to play in any expansion regardless of the one chosen. So once you have any Chromie Time campaign turned on, say for example you pick the Warlords of Draenor one, which scales it from level 10 to 60, it actually also scales all the other expansion campaigns that you can pick from to level 10 to 60 as well. So even though you might be questing in Draenor, you could technically go to the Pandaria zones too without changing anything, King or any of the others, and they will already be scaled appropriately. So I know that probably seems kind of confusing, but basically Chromie Time being turned on means Chromie Time is turned on for everything. The only thing that the campaign/expansion you select will really change is what dungeons are offered in the Dungeon Finder tool. So if you are in the Burning Crusade Chromie Time, for example, you will only be able to queue for Burning Crusade dungeons, and if you'd like to queue for dungeons from a different expansion, you will have to talk to her to change to that desired expansion. Once you pick an expansion, if you're feeling lost or like you missed something and still need help finding a quest to start an expansion, you can check two places. The first one is your adventure journal, and the second one is by visiting a hero's call board or warchief's command board in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. These boards will usually give you the option of 3 starter quests for different zones in the timeline you picked. And it's also important to note that you can only stay in this phase from level 10 to 60, and once you hit level 60, it will literally kick you out and teleport you back to Stormwind or Orgrimmar, depending on your faction. And what about turning off Chromie Time? If you would like to turn off Chromie Time or switch to a different timeline, you just simply have to go back to Stormwind or Orgrimmar and talk to her again. So with all that, let's take a look at all the expansion timelines and where you can expect to be questing for each one. If you're a new player, you probably aren't sure what all the expansions entail and aren't sure where you want to go. Sometimes it's as simple as a certain aesthetic you're looking for, maybe there's a zone you've seen before and want to go there but you don't even know what it's called, or maybe you want to know the general story that will be told in that timeline. So let's look at each one. The Cataclysm. Disaster engulfs the world as the black dragon Deathwing erupts from his earthen lair. With the elements raging across Azeroth, doomsday cultists seek to usher in the end times. Quell the fury of the elements and defeat Deathwing to prevent Azeroth's destruction. The Cataclysm timeline combines Classic WoW and the Cataclysm expansion, and you will be questing in the OG zones Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms. Additional Cataclysm-specific zones such as Mount Hyjal, Vast Shear, Deepholm, Twilight Highlands, and Uldum provide further adventures. But one important thing to note is that even in Chromie Time, you can't access all the zones until a certain level, and it works like that for all the other timeline expansions too. Here's a chart that breaks down the level requirements of zones for the Cataclysm campaign, and I will show a chart for each expansion as we go forward. Portal to Outland. Dormant since the end of the Second War, the dark portal to Outland has opened once again. A demonic army gathers in force on the other side, and bold heroes are needed to strike them down. Journey to a shattered world and stop the Burning Legion from invading Azeroth. In the Burning Crusade timeline, you will be questing an Outland which includes Hellfire Peninsula, Zangarmarsh, Terakar Forest, Nagran, Blade's Edge Mountains, Netherstorm, and Shadowmoon Valley. Fall of the Lich King. From atop his frozen throne in the icy wastes of Northrend, the Lich King prepares his undead scourge for a war that will extinguish all life on Azeroth. Answer the call of the Argent Crusade and end the Lich King's reign. In the Wrath of the Lich King timeline, you will be questing in Northrend, which includes Barrene Tundra, Howling Fjord, Grizzly Hills, Dragonblight, Zuldrak, Sholazar Basin, Icecrown, and the Storm Peaks. Wilds of Pandaria. For 10,000 years, Pandaria and its people have remained hidden in the mists. As Horde heroes battle Alliance invaders upon these mysterious shores, an ancient evil is awakened to terrorize the land. Set out on an adventure as you explore the wonders and dangers of Pandaria. In the Mists of Pandaria timeline, you will be questing in Pandaria, which includes the Jade Forest, Vale of Eternal Blossoms, Valley of Four Winds, Krasarang Wilds, Kunlai Summit, Townlong Steppes, and Dread Wastes. Draenor. Garrosh Hellscream has escaped through the dark portal to Draenor's past. There he amasses an iron horde with the intent to invade and conquer all of Azeroth. Build a garrison and raise your armies and join legendary heroes in the defense of both worlds. In the Warlords of Draenor timeline, you will be questing in Draenor, which includes Frostfire Ridge, Shadowmoon Valley, Gorgrond, Talador, Nagran, Spires of Iraq, and Tanan Jungle. The Legion Invasion. The Burning Legion has launched a full-scale invasion of Azeroth, landing upon the Broken Isles with endless numbers and an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. Wield the most powerful weapons on Azeroth and fight to free our world from the Legion's grasp. In the Legion timeline, you will be questing in the Broken Isles, which includes Stormheim, Azuna, Val'sharah, High Mountain, and Suramar. Shadowlands. Sylvanas Windrunner has shattered the helm of domination, sundering the Vale into the Shadowlands. Dark forces gather seeking to claim the soul of Azeroth, rebuild the strength of the Covenants, and unite the Afterlives to push back against the Jailer's onslaught. In the Shadowlands timeline, you will be questing in the Shadowlands, which includes the Maw, Maldraxxus, Bastion, Ardenweald, and Revendreth. And that's all of the campaigns that you can pick from. Remember, as I mentioned, regardless which campaign you activate, you can totally go to any of them without even having to change it. The only thing that it truly affects is the dungeons that you can run. I hope that this quick overview of each expansion gave you a better idea of what you can expect your experience to be like. I would love to spend more time giving an even deeper look into every single zone within each expansion, but since that would take so long, and plus I don't want to completely spoil it for you, I can only say that I hope you enjoy exploring, and I'd love to hear what zones you enjoy the most after you've seen all of the world. Another thing I want to mention is that you may have noticed that Battle for Azeroth isn't an option in Chromie Time, and that's because it's technically already the main/default campaign you're in. So when you don't have Chromie Time turned on, that's just kind of where you're supposed to go after level 10 by default. But that's all I have for now with going over each of the expansion timelines. I will link a few websites down below in the description that have useful information and charts that tell you more about the zones and dungeons and levels that come with each expansion. And feel free to do some more research, like maybe watching all the official World of Warcraft expansion trailers from over the years so you can see a full CGI style cinematic that gives you a feel for each of the expansions. Alright, and that brings us to the end of the video. I hope that you found this helpful and that you got to learn a little bit more about Chromie Time, how it all works. There was so much stuff that even I had no idea about, so I learned a lot while filming and researching for this video. If I missed anything or if you have any questions, just leave them down below. I will try to get back to you, and if I don't know the answer, I'll try to figure it out for you. And overall, I just hope that I could be helpful at all, and I can't wait for the next video, which is episode number 8, where we're going to be talking about dungeons, how to queue up for dungeons, dungeon etiquette, all the roles, how to do them, Chromie Time dungeons, lots of stuff to do with dungeons. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a lovely day. Bye!